Coming up on West Side Stories, we take you inside Van Andel Arena, where President Donald Trump recently held a rally for supporters.
Plus, a recent government proposal may see the gray wolf removed from the endangered species list. We speak with those on both sides of the issue. And meet a Grand Rapids man that's using his music to support those immigrating to the U.S. All that and more next on West Side Stories.
West Side Stories is produced by students from the Multimedia Journalism program at Grand Valley State University. Support also comes from the School of Communications. Inspiring thought, perfecting practice.
Welcome to West Side Stories. I'm Preston Anikuski.
And I'm Mackenzie Sorrell.
Grand Rapids was flooded with people from both sides of the political spectrum last week when President Donald Trump came to town. Reporters Savannah Bressman and Mackenzie Sorrell talked to several Trump supporters and protesters to get their thoughts about the experience.
What do I like about Trump? What's there not to like? He represents literally everything that I'm against.
President Trump attracted thousands of supporters and hundreds of protesters upon his arrival to Grand Rapids for his first campaign rally for the 2020 presidential race last week. Outside of Van Andel Arena, the atmosphere couldn't have been more divided.
You've got like two completely different political ideologies, and I feel like we've always been divided. It's just more obvious now. And maybe that's with social media. Maybe it's because this guy won an election.
My feeling towards Trump in general is that he is a white nationalist, anti-immigration, hateful, disgusting human being. I can say the same thing for most Republicans as well.
A few fights broke out between the supporters and the protesters. However, the protest was mostly peaceful. One Trump supporter says he wishes he could just have a normal conversation with the protesters to talk about why he supports Trump.
You know, I think it's just mainly people, they're upset. They're misinformed, but along with you, me, everyone else, they have their own beliefs. They may not agree with Trump, they're upset, they want to express that, freedom of speech. They have every right to do that.
But Cook says she doesn't want to talk to Trump supporters, and that makes open debate a problem. Like many Democrats, she's angry.
Get out of my city and get out of the country. I mean, really, we're just fed up and we reject your agenda 100%.
Trump supporters largely ignored the protesters. People inside the arena were buzzing with excitement. The energy was high as everyone anticipated the arrival of the president. People came from all over to support Trump. In fact, one supporter from Indiana drove to Michigan to attend his first Trump rally.
This is the first rally that's been close enough, and I couldn't miss it. Like, there was no reason for me not to come.
Tingle says Trump is an effective leader. He says he isn't the typical politician, and that's fine with him.
My favorite thing about him is the fact that he is so blunt. We don't need somebody in office that's going to read off a teleprompter and read jokes that have been written for him and just smile and shake hands and hug babies. We need somebody that's going to be very blunt, say what is not popular to be said, but what needs to be said, like a good leader does.
Many Democrats do not understand how people can support Trump. Many women do not agree with Trump's views on women's rights. But Trump still has many women supporters.
I feel he supports my views more than any of the Democrats that were running last year or the other independents. You know, I have my personal views on right to life, the Second Amendment, and Common Core education. Those are important to me as a mother and a wife, and he's more in line with how I feel. So I have no problem as a woman supporting him, because he supports me.
It was clear when President Trump arrived that many other people felt the same way. During his 75-minute speech, President Trump discussed healthcare, the automobile industry, and the border wall, things we have heard before. But President Trump also expressed how thankful he was that the Robert Mueller investigation was over.
3 years of lies and smears and slander, the Russia hoax is finally dead. The delusion is over.
President Trump said the Democrats used the liberal media to spark this investigation. He says most of the mainstream media has continued to portray him and the Republican Party in a negative light.
The corrupt media, and it's never been more corrupt than it is today. And they tried to do everything possible to take us out, but we're very tough to take out, aren't we?
Some people say it's statements like these that at best polarize the Republicans and Democrats and at worst incite violence against one another. Tingle says he doesn't know what to believe anymore when it comes to the media. Student Republicans at Grand Valley also struggle with how the media portrays President Trump and Republicans in general.
There are definitely certain people in the media that, disguise things from the American people, and they do it intentionally to, undermine the president.
Kelsey says it's hard to listen to the media and others constantly bash President Trump. He says it's difficult being a political minority on a very liberal campus.
Pretty quiet in class. I do have a feeling that if I were to speak up, I'd get shouted down. But, I also yell at myself for that sometimes too, because I feel like I shouldn't hold back my tongue. But when you think about it, sometimes what goes through your mind is, do you want a better grade or do you want to get your point across? So.
It's not just students on Grand Valley's campus that feel this way, but students across the country have reached out to the president about universities that have tried to restrict and conform students' freedom of speech. President Trump says it was time to take action.
Last week, I signed an order to defend free speech on college campuses.
Emily Calder, a GVSU student, says that it's important to remember that we as Americans all have a right to freedom of speech and thought.
No, I think it's just as a Republican, don't be afraid to share your voice, especially on a liberal campus, because I've always been a little bit afraid, but the more we speak out, the more we're heard, and it'll be less scary.
Calder says that if Republicans and Democrats can learn to have conversations and agree to disagree, our nation could become more unified. But until then, the country could remain polarized. President Trump ended his rally by making a promise to the people of Michigan.
Together with the very proud and very truly incredible and inspiring people of Michigan, we will make America wealthy again. And we're doing it. We will make America strong again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you.
Reporting from Grand Rapids, I'm Mackenzie Sorrell.
Great story, Mackenzie. Thank you. The executive order that Trump signed says universities must promote free speech and debate on college campuses. Failure to do so, Trump says, means no federal funding.
In February, President Trump declared a national emergency at the border between the U.S. and Mexico. Reporter Eli Ong is exploring how the Grand Rapids community is reacting to this national emergency. He brings us a story about a local band and a church in Grand Rapids that are supporting immigrants who have come to the U.S. to make a new start.
It's very sad because you're just there at your house, getting the grill going with your family, and then there's a knock at the door and somebody's telling you that they're there just to pick you up.
This is just one example of what happens when ICE shows up at your door. Meet Julio Cesar Viveros Cuavez, the lead guitarist for Cabildo, a local area Latin American alternative rock band that performs music with a pro-immigration theme and advocates for the improved treatment of Latin American immigrants. Cabildo often partners with social justice organizations like Justice Choir GR to help put on events like the Bridges Not Walls concert at Trinity United Methodist Church of Grand Rapids, which Cabildo percussionist Joshua Dunnigan says is a great way to get people to understand and communicate with each other on polarizing topics like immigration.
events like Bridges Not Walls enables us to see each other and actually have communication and conversation with another human being. It's difficult to get into an event like that or a space like that and make music with someone or have a conversation with someone and not think of them as just another human being.
Conversations like this are why Cuevas joined Cabildo and plays at events like Bridges Not Walls. As the only non-U.S. born member of his family, he says he continues to struggle with the immigration process and may still be sent back to Mexico even though he has lived in the U.S. for over 20 years.
There's so many kidnappings, there's so many, just so much gore. That is crazy. I don't, my kids wouldn't make it there. My wife wouldn't make it there, if I'm being honest. I wouldn't want him there.
Cuevas is speaking of his home city, Veracruz, Mexico, which is where he immigrated from in 1998. Veracruz is a port city that continues to be riddled by organized crime from Mexican cartels and corrupt government officials. According to a September 2018 report from Al Jazeera, there were over 1,600 homicides in Veracruz dating from 2017 to 2018. Cuevas says that he does not understand the animosity from some Americans and would like to pose a question to those who are anti-immigrant.
Why are you so angry? I mean, it's, I had never seen, I've been here for close to 20 years, and I have never seen so much hate directed towards minorities or immigrants. And the sad part is that it's the people that needs help the most.
Justice Choir GR music director Tara Cleveland says Cuevas' case and the political atmosphere surrounding the Trump administration made putting on a concert like this too important to pass up. Cleveland says the music they perform is inspired by a civil rights songbook that contains well-known pieces from the 1950s and 60s. According to Cleveland, the movement really took off with the help of the internet. In the future, Cuevas and Cleveland hope that concerts like Bridges Not Walls can help motivate the West Michigan community to become more accepting of others and foster better community relations. Cuevas also awaits a court proceeding that will decide whether or not he can stay in the United States. A court date will take place in March of 2020, and Cuevas had this to say regarding his future in the United States.
It's scary, but, we'll deal with it when it comes.
From Grand Rapids, Michigan, I'm Eli Ong.
To learn more about cases like Cuevas, you can visit Justice for Our Neighbors website. If you are interested in catching up with Justice Choir GR, be on the lookout for them at the Festival of the Arts this summer on June 9th.
The United States Secretary of the Interior, David Bernhardt, has announced that there will be a proposal to remove the gray wolf from the endangered species list. Reporter Madeline Crace talked to Michigan residents with wildly different opinions about the future of the wolves in the U.S.
For years, wolves were symbols of the wilderness, only in these roadless areas with no people. Well, that's because that's the only place we didn't, eradicate them.
Professor Paul Keenlance at Grand Valley State University has been tracking and researching wolves for decades.
So biologically speaking, there's no reason to keep them on the endangered species list. The populations currently are sustainable. There's no reason we can't have a harvest. Biologically, there's also no reason we need a harvest.
In the past, wolves have been almost hunted to extinction. If the wolves are taken off the endangered species list, each state will have the individual right to permit wolf harvests or hunts.
But at least in the Upper Great Lakes, I don't think that delisting is any kind of a threat to wolves. It's a success story. Wolves have come back. We've got healthy populations of wolves.
According to the International Wolf Center, in 1970, there were only 750 wolves in the upper Midwest. Today, there are around 3,700 wolves in the upper Midwest. Wolves appear to be on the rebound, but some people like Jim Pearson oppose the delisting of wolves.
Do I believe they should be still endangered? I do. I don't see a hunt for them. I mean, I understand the DNR side with the wildlife, with the predators and that, are trying to keep them, percentage them down so they're not overruling, eating out of their natural habitat, and then going into, livestock and that.
Some people are concerned that too many wolves will cause them to prey on livestock or big game species like white-tailed deer. Others don't want to share hunting season with wolves.
They have to eat, right? They're big predators. And in the vast majority of areas where you find wolves, the main part of their diet are big ungulates or hoofed animals. Well, in Michigan, that's white-tailed deer. And that causes a lot of people to have a strong opinion because, we like to hunt deer.
Pearson says he used to hunt, but now he runs Howling Timbers Animal Sanctuary with his wife Brenda in Muskegon, Michigan. The sanctuary provides a home for surrendered farm animals and exotic animals like Arctic fox, lizards, and monkeys. But it all started with wolves and wolf dogs.
We moved out here in '96. We had four wolf dogs when we moved out here. For the acreage and for the size of pens we use in that. Howling Timbers was the name that we first started out here with, because that's what we had was the wolf dogs and stuff, so we just kind of named it that.
Howling Timbers is Michigan's first and only wolf sanctuary. They are licensed by the state of Michigan to care for up to 50 wolves and wolf dogs. They currently look after 47 wolf dogs and high-percentage wolves. The term high-percentage wolves means that most of the animal's genetics is of the wolf species.
The wolf dogs, if we've been licensed out of Department of Ag for the state, allowed us to have it here because we did take some in that was seized and from people that had.
In 2000, it became illegal to keep wolves and wolf dogs in Michigan without a license. Pearson believes that wolves and wolf dogs shouldn't be legal as pets, but he also doesn't think that there should be a wolf season.
If it's putting food on your table, I mean, that's different. I used to hunt years ago and that was to put meat in the freezer, cut down on the cost of going to the store and that. But just to go out there and shoot something for the size of the horns or just to shoot something to shoot it, say that you got it, I don't believe in that.
Keen Lance, who supports the delisting, said that from his experience in tracking wolves, hunting them, if allowed, will not be easy.
If we start hunting wolves, they are going to figure that out, and it will be much, much harder.
One thing Keen Lance and Pearson can agree on is the nature of wolves and high-percentage wolf dogs. Both said that they are not made to be pets.
What can happen is you get an animal that has the size and aggressiveness of a wolf and the lack of fear of humans of a dog, and then what do you know, quite often those don't turn out to be good pets.
The higher the percentage of wolf that's in them in that, it's not going to be a house pet, and anybody that tries to make it a house pet is not going to have a house.
Keen Lance said that much of the bad rap wolves get with humans comes from mishandled interactions with wolf dogs.
Little Red Riding Hood, the Three Little Pigs and that. The wolf was always looked at as this big evil animal that all it's out there to do is to come in and kill off and attack and all that. And the truth of it is your wolves in the wild there and that, they're timid. If you see them, good for you. You probably get a glimpse of them.
Howling Timbers is trying to change the stigma associated with wolves.
But as far as pets, my dealings with them myself, I would own and rather have a pure wolf or a high percentage wolf dog. It's totally different than a domestic dog. Like I say, the intelligence of them, how they handle themselves.
Besides wanting to keep wolves on the endangered species list, Pearson said there is a lot you can learn from the pack animal.
They take care of their own. In fact, I think if we followed a lot of their instincts as how they take care of their family and that, we'd probably be better off.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as the DNR, have not commented on the controversy yet. In West Michigan, I'm Madeline Crace.
If you're on the hunt for more information about gray wolves, Howling Timbers provides tours for the public at the Animal Sanctuary in Muskegon.
The Michigan's Bluebird Society's 14th annual Spring Festival took place in Grand Rapids last weekend. The festival educates people about birds and their habitat. Reporter Christopher Cooper was there and shows us how to celebrate and appreciate bluebirds. That is, except sparrows. They are definitely not celebrated.
And I take a large rock and another large rock and I basically crush its head. And it works quickly, and then quite frankly, I leave the carcass out somewhere.
This sounds harsh, but Penny Briscoe is talking about an invasive species called the house sparrow that destroys our ecosystem. At the festival, people could ask Briscoe and other bird experts questions during an expert panel. The festival attracted many people of different levels of bird knowledge, but no matter the amount of experience with birds, each festival goer shared one thing in common: a love for bluebirds and a hatred for sparrows.
Sparrows are evil.
Their distaste is with good reason. The house sparrow is a non-native bird that was introduced to North America by the Europeans. The sparrow is an invasive species that seeks to harm the birds native to North America, like the bluebird.
We do want to protect all birds that are native to North America. We like to focus on birds that are an indicator species, so something that's eating a lot of insects or a solely insectivore diet. They're a good indicator of ecosystem health in many cases, and so we know if they're not doing well, it's perhaps a sign that the ecosystem's not doing well.
Rouse and Michigan Audubon seek to connect birds and people to help the ecosystem. Rouse says this human connection is important because a lot of these indicator species and the insects that provide birds and humans with food are declining.
There's a lot of different reasons for that. Some include pesticides and chemicals in the environment. Others include climate change and changes in habitat.
Bird Festival goers learn more about saving the habitats of the bluebirds. For Sally Triant, the bluebirds have a special connection with her family.
We came to learn about bluebirds today because we have some that come to our backyard, and we wanted to learn how we could take care of them. And we love bluebirds because they remind us of my grandmother. She had blue eyes, that her eyes were the same color blue as a bluebird, and I think of her every time I see one.
Triant and other festival goers took part in conferences at the festival to learn more about bird conservation. According to Doug Talmy, a landscaping expert, one way to help bluebirds is to plant native North American plants that insects are adapted to.
This is, the new agricultural ethic now. We get rid of all the weeds, all the milkweeds, all the asters, all the goldenrods, all the things supporting our 4,000 species of native bees, and plant grass.
Talmy says that you're better off putting plastic plants in your yard than non-native ones because they both don't help the ecosystem, but at least with plastic plants, you don't have to water them. However, the proper solution, he says, is to become conservationists yourself.
We need to rebuild the carrying capacity of planet Earth. The carrying capacity is simply its ability to support life, and we need to do that by putting the plants back. Where are we going to put the plants back? We're going to put the plants back on the property we own.
According to Talmy, 83% of the land in the U.S. is privately owned. He says that the preserves are too small and isolated, so conservation must happen on private land. This will promote an increase in the insects needed to support the native birds and the ecosystem as a whole.
Insects are really important for people as well because they pollinate our food. We wouldn't have fruits or vegetable crops if we didn't have insects to pollinate, and that's beyond just the honeybees. There's a lot of insect pollinators that aren't bees.
Along with invasive plants causing decline, improper human interaction and other invasive species add to this decline. Kurt Hagmeister, president of the Michigan Bluebird Society, says the trees the bluebirds nest in are getting chopped down. The society seeks to educate children and adults about the bluebirds because they are a species that need a lot of human help.
The eastern bluebird was declining for many years throughout the 1900s, and it was found that through intervention by people of providing nesting boxes to them to replace nesting sites that they had lost to both just development and also non-native species such as house sparrows and starlings.
At the festival, attendees learned how to build their own nest boxes. The nest boxes are made specifically to attract bluebirds and keep out predators and non-native birds. The festival also focused on other birds that need human help. According to Rouse, the chimney swift population is declining by 7% each year.
They're entirely reliant on human structures or chimneys for nesting and roosting habitat. And so what we have here is an artificial chimney that helps provide extra habitat where they may not be able to use household chimneys if they've been capped or if they're lined with metal or other liners.
Whether listening to bird experts talk about the bluebirds and other native birds or getting hands-on experience with helping them, the festival helped teach those like Sally and Miles Triant how they can help save the bluebirds.
Planting native plants is the best way to attract the food that our bluebirds and all the other birds that we love need to eat. It was astounding, the facts that we learned about how many caterpillars it takes to keep birds alive. Do you remember?
Like, I think for a whole family, it's like over 6,000 caterpillars.
6,000 caterpillars to keep baby chickadees alive, I think was the fact that we learned. So we learned a lot today. We're going to take home some bird boxes and try and keep bluebirds alive in our yard.
If you feed birds or want to attract birds to your yard, just make sure they aren't house sparrows and make sure that you have the proper native plants. In Grand Rapids, I'm Christopher Cooper.
If you want to attract more birds, the National Wildlife Federation says planting native plants is a good idea. Their website will help you pick the best ones to plant based on where you live.
And that is all the time we have for you today. I'm Preston Anikuski.
And I'm Mackenzie Sorrell. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next week.
West Side Stories is produced by students from the Multimedia Journalism program at Grand Valley State University. Support also comes from the School of Communications, inspiring thought, perfecting practice.